Welcome to Business Review, a daily program that delves into the latest and most significant economic. Business Review covers the most up-to-date developments in the global financial world.
That can kill the coronavirus with ultraviolet light have been brought in at one of London's biggest train stations, St Pancras International, as it tries to restore customer confidence in the safety of travel hubs. Stations suffered a blow when Prime Minister Boris Johnson told people to work from home again where possible and also ordered restaurants to close early to tackle a second wave of COVID-19 infections. St Pancras International saw 34.6 million entries in the 2019 from the Office of Rail and Road, making it the 9th busiest station in the country. The Office of Rail and Road has said the pandemic caused a dramatic fall in rail usage. The robots use ultraviolet light to sweep large areas without the need for chemical disinfectant, the station said, adding the technology could kill nearly 100% of bacteria and viruses, including the coronavirus, on surfaces and in the surrounding air in minutes. St Pancras International is the terminus of the Eurostar link to Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam, and also shares links to 6 London Underground lines with neighbouring King's Cross station.
An alliance have joined the global COVAX scheme intended to ensure fair distribution of supplies for future vaccines against COVID-19. Head of Gavi Vaccines Alliance, Seth Berkley, said after a deadline to make binding commitments that the list includes 64 wealthier self-financing countries and accounts for about 2/3 of global population. The WHO Director General has said that the goal of COVAX is by the end of 2021 to deliver 2 billion vaccine doses around the world, with healthcare workers prioritized initially and then the most vulnerable 20% of people in every participating country, regardless of income levels. While many lower-income nations are seeking assistance via COVAX, some richer countries had been reticent in confirming their intentions. Some of those who have secured their own future supplies through bilateral deals, including the United States, do not plan to join COVAX. The Vaccine Alliance said it.
British Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove said a no-deal Brexit is in nobody's interest, while warning Britain faces jammed borders and 100-kilometre lorry queues at the end of its transition agreement with the European Union in January, unless businesses take the deadline seriously and prepare for it. Britain formally left the bloc in January but remains in a status quo transition period that expires at the end of this year. The government assumes EU member states will impose third country controls on Britain at the end of the transition period. Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove warned there would be change at the end of the transition period, whether stalled talks responsibility for minimizing disruption onto businesses. Gove said to the Parliament that the consequences of a lack of business preparedness will be not just economic opportunities missed for those companies who don't prepare, but potentially much wider disruption. Earlier, the government warned British trucks could face delays of up to 2 days to enter Europe and queues of around 7,000 lorries after Britain leaves the bloc, disrupting imports and exports of crucial goods. Gove told Parliament that some businesses believed the transition period would be extended, but it would not. Britain is determined to get a trade deal with the European Union, Gove said, adding that if the two sides work together, then there would be huge opportunities.
The International Labour Organization, the ILO, said the income earned from work worldwide dropped by an estimated 10.7% or $3.5 trillion in the first 9 months of 2020 compared to the same period a year ago. The Director General of the ILO, Guy Ryder, said the figure, which does not include income support provided by governments to compensate for workplace closures during the pandemic, is equal to 5.5% of global gross domestic product. Workers in developing and emerging economies, especially those in informal employment, had been affected at a much greater extent than in past crises. It added that the decline in employment company numbers had generally been greater for women than men. Ryder warned that $982 billion fiscal stimulus gap between high-income and low-income countries could increase inequalities. In the second quarter alone, the revised estimate of 25 million full-time jobs against a previous estimate of 14% or 400 million jobs. In the third quarter, work hour losses of 12.1% or equivalent to 345 million jobs were expected. The ILO said working hour losses in the final quarter of 2020 are now projected to amount to 8.6%. That's about 245 million full-time jobs against the same time a year ago.
Britain has a massive package of measures to protect jobs and would be looking at creative ways to do more. He said the government was also going to come forward with more measures, but ruled out a simple extension of the existing furlough scheme. Johnson went on to promise to trying to save jobs but at risk by the pandemic. Johnson defended the national test and trace system, saying it was yielding granular detail on the incidence of coronavirus cases, so ministers could put in place measures to stop the spread of the virus. Asked by opposition Labour leader Keir Starmer why he had said earlier Johnson with the spread of the disease, Johnson said one of the great advantages of NHS or the National Health Service test and trace is that Britain now have the ability to see in granular detail where the epidemic is breaking out.
Londoners said they doubted whether Britons, confused by changing rules, would comply with new stricter coronavirus measures introduced by the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and ordered restaurants to close early in an effort to slow a fast-spreading second wave of COVID-19, saying restrictions would likely last 6 months. The new measures came after persistent government messaging trying to persuade Britons to return to offices and offer of discounts to eat out at restaurants. A YouGov poll found that 78% of people supported the measures already announced, although 45% said Johnson should have gone further, while 32% said he had got the restrictions about right. Of the business side, there was widespread angst over what the new restrictions would mean, especially for restaurants and other hospitality firms. The 10 p.m. closing time announced by Johnson was criticized as ineffective in terms of reducing transmission, but damaging to business. Britain has the highest COVID-19 death toll in Europe, with a total close to 42,000 deaths. New infections have been a day by mid-October if left unchecked.
This has been Business Review, your daily source for the most critical financial stories. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.